How's everybody this morning? Good, I hope? Good. All right, well, we'll just get started. Actually, I'll give you another second to connect to your audio while I share my screen. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. As you keep coming into the room, welcome to a talk we're doing today called Prioritizing Your Wealth Building. My name is, sorry, I'm just organizing my screen here. My name is Casey Hallelay. I am the SVP of Financial Education at Squire, and we are a financial wellness benefit company. And today we are here to talk about prioritizing your wealth building. So I'm going to tell you a tiny little bit about myself, then we'll talk about a little bit of admin, and then we will kick it off. So I spent most of my career working on Wall Street. I traded currencies and structured credit for a long time. And before I went to Wall Street, I got my master's at NYU in public finance. And when I got there, I ended up going through a fairly rigorous training program that covered everything they thought we needed to know about financial matters, like stocks and bonds and interest rates and options and derivatives and ethics and accounting and econ and all sorts of topics. But they did not spend even 1 hour teaching us about our financial wellness. So I worked on Wall Street for, I don't know, about 10 years. I traded hundreds of billions of dollars of assets. Some really simple things like currencies, some really complicated things like structured credit, hundreds of billion. I had many days that I would trade more than $1 billion in assets. So it was a very, very tense and competitive job. I did that for 10 years. And in 2009, I decided to take some time off to start my family. And my husband and I were blessed with 4 beautiful children in the very short span of 6 years. And during that time, I would sit up at night and think to myself, what can I do? What am I good at? What do I like doing? How can I contribute to this world? What is it that I can do to make a difference given the skill set that I have? And I settled on teaching financial wellness because I really believe that it can change your life. So I started a company about 6 years ago, and last year my company was acquired by Squire, and I am teaching financial wellness and fulfilling my dream. So I join you today as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a woman, as somebody who cares deeply about helping people become financially well. So welcome. I believe everybody is on mute, and you can put something into chat. You can put a question into chat and we can unmute you if you would like. I would like to, of course, open it up. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them over chat and we can unmute you, or I can read it out loud. We're also going to have some obvious times for questions, which will be very obvious. So if you don't have any questions that are burning, please feel free to not ask them, and that's fine. So we'll have a couple of obvious time for questions and then plenty of time at the end for questions. So I'm just going to bring up my chat real quick. Happy St. Patty's Day to you also. So this is my why. This is why I started my company, and this is what I try to do every single day. I try to leave the world a little bit better than I found it by teaching people about financial wellness, because I feel like that's the thing that I can contribute to the world. So if you don't mind, just so I can get to know a little bit about some of you, would you put your why into chat? I would just love to hear. We are all women, I believe. I can't actually see everybody at the moment because I'm screen sharing, but I assume we're all women. If we're not, that's fine too. Some of us may be moms. I'm assuming all entrepreneurs. I would love to hear about your why. What do you do, and or why do you do it? Okay, nobody wants to share their why. That's okay. You can pop it up if you want, and we can go back to it in a little while. So
I was going to say right now, okay, we have some responses. Yay.
Okay, come on, girls, come on. You do it for your family. I love that.
Can you?
Yes, you do it for you to provide a legacy for your grandchildren. I love that. That is perhaps exactly what we are doing here today. Thank you very much to both of you for sharing those two things. So I took a little bit of time brainstorming why some people may want to be starting a business, and or also why I started my business. And the three broad categories I kept ending up in was we are creators, we are perhaps freedom seekers, and we are and should be legacy builders. So I appreciate the fact that people are trying to build a legacy for their family, for their children, for their children's children, their grandchildren, obviously, whoever and whatever it is that you're trying to build a legacy for. And sorry, just a couple more are coming in. Thank you so much. My why is to continue to be informed and to help others be empowered. I love that. And I'm a resilience coach and a trainer. I do it to help people achieve happier, more successful lives. I love that. I love that. So here's what I would like to suggest that we do today. I believe that we are probably all in these three broad categories. We're probably hanging around, knowing us as women, we're probably hanging around in that middle section where we have an arm and a leg and a nose and an eye in all of these three different areas. Here's what we are doing today. We are very specifically only working on legacy building. We are here to help you prioritize your wealth building. And we are going to exclusively hang out in this little yellow circle for the next hour. So we are creators. I guarantee we're all creators, and we're probably all freedom seekers. We are going to throw all of that out the window for the next hour and focus exclusively on legacy building. I would imagine we all have big, huge, life-changing, world-changing dreams in some way, and we probably wouldn't have started businesses otherwise. And we probably also have small dreams, like realistic things, logistical things, like paying the bills next week. Those things are all great. They're all grand. We're throwing them all out the window today to focus on legacy building. I don't mind if you're a plumber or a
Okay. We will give it a moment for Casey to reconnect. Let me see. All right.
Did she disappear? It wasn't just me?
Yes.
Okay, I just closed out of Zoom and back in again because I thought it was my computer.
Actually, on my end, it closed out and opened back up on its own.
It may be Zoom.
No, I'm sure it's Zoom because it just froze up.
Yeah, I was having problems earlier with another Zoom I was trying to get into.
Oh, wow.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there she is.
Yes. Casey, we can hear you.
Yes.
We can't see you, though.
No. It still says your screen has started sharing, but nothing has appeared yet.
Ah, tech.
I tell you.
Can you hear me, Tasha?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I'm sorry?
Let's see.
Right.
Hi, we see you now. Unmute.
She's not muted.
Oh,
That's what the problem was earlier. I was like, I can't hear you.
Can
okay.
you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry, everybody.
No,
This is
it's
exciting.
not you. It's just technology.
I know, we need to be kind to ourselves. Of course, I can't, just give me a quick second. It won't let me share my screen. Sorry, everybody. Okay, let's get back.
Cindy. I'm Casey. I'm sorry, Casey. What is it saying?
It is, am I back in? Can you see me?
We can see you, but the screen share still is kind of like paused.
How about now?
Sorry, what was that?
Can you see me? Can you see my screen now?
No.
Okay.
You want to email it to Tasha or I?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Tasha, if she emails the presentation to you?
I'll try and just, yes.
Yeah, we can do that. That's a good idea.
All right.
Open up my email.
I'm just going to try to change my network one more time. I've never experienced this before. Is that, can you see anything now?
No. And actually, your image is frozen at this point. I can hear you speaking, but I don't see you moving.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I see you moving now.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not get stressed over technology. Just send
Okay.
it.
Hang on just a second. We'll get there. Okay, Tasha, that's on its way to you. It says I have full and complete internet. Let me just try one more time. Can you see, what can you see now?
It says that you have started screen sharing.
But it won't let you in.
And that you show your image.
Oh. So some people say that they can see it and some can't. This is so fun. Well, can everybody hear me? Maybe I could keep talking in the meantime before when Tasha gets it up. Deborah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So, Tasha, you just take yourself off of mute and let me know whenever you are up and running and you can bring it up. But the point of all of this is that we are here to help. I am here to help you provide a legacy for your family. And we're going to use the proceeds of your small business to try to figure out how to do that. So this, when my screen comes back up, we will be able to tell you that this is the first talk in a 4-part series. So today we're talking about legacy building and prioritizing your wealth building. And then on Thursday, April 21st, I can't read it on my tiny little notes. We are talking about managing debt. So today we're going to talk a little bit about debt and the things that and using debt as a way to prioritize your wealth building. But next time on Thursday, April 21st, we're going to be able to talk about debt in a much, much, much deeper way. And then on Tuesday, April 13th, we'll be talking about managing your spending and liquidity as it relates to your business, talk about bettering your balance sheet. And then finally, on Wednesday, April 28th, we'll be talking about COVID-specific resources that you can use to better your business, different programs that are available to you as a small business owner that will help better your business. So where are we now? Can anybody see anything? Or Tasha, have you gotten the email? You haven't gotten it yet? Oh my goodness. What is going on in this world? Can anybody see my screen?
It's still blank.
Oh. All right, let's just. This is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm gonna pop out one more time and come back in. I'm so sorry to do this to everybody.
I feel like this is a first for us.
It is. Okay, I just got the presentation.
The kicker to me is that the internet companies have raised their prices, but they haven't improved services.
Okay. All right, so I will just share my screen until she gets back in, and hopefully.
Did she leave us?
Yeah, she said she was going to go out and come back in. There she is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see?
Yes.
Yay! Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm so happy. Okay, let's carry on and move forward. Of course, for some reason now, of course, everything is frozen. This is a disaster, of course. I joined from a different browser. Hopefully that will help.
Okay, this is where we left off at.
Okay, wait, so sorry. So I'm viewing Tasha's screen now. Can you see if I can try to share?
Sure. Let me stop sharing. All right, go ahead.
I joined from a different browser, so hopefully that will help. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. All right. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I really apologize about all that. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a visual of today. We're talking about wealth building. On Thursday, April 21st, we're talking about managing debt, a deep dive into what debt means and what it can mean for your business and for you personally. On Tuesday, April 13th, spending and liquidity, bettering your balance sheet, all of the things that we need to talk about, credit scores, things like that are a little bit extraneous to the business, but also leak into your personal financial situation. And then finally, on April 28th, COVID resources that are available to you as a small business owner. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking. Please, if anybody can't hear me or anything, please feel free to just shout it out, Deborah. but let's
No, I
try.
hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you everybody for your patience. So as I've said a bunch of times already, I like to repeat myself. We're here today to talk about prioritizing your wealth building. So we've talked a little bit about what it's all for. For me, it's for doing some things to change the world in a better way. And clearly that's the same for a lot of you. And for me, it's also a legacy building exercise. And that obviously is the case for all of you as well. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what an asset is and how you can accumulate them. And then we're also going to talk about what a liability is and how you can reduce them. And then we're going to talk about how you as a small business owner can implement some of these strategies so that you can prioritize your wealth building. So again, just as a visual, what is wealth? What is this? What does wealth mean? What am I talking about? And wealth, very simply, is your assets minus your liabilities equals your net wealth. And I know some of this can be fairly elementary for anybody who's taken high school economics, but I think it's important for us to take a step back and look at the bigger picture so that we're all focused on this thing, again, just for this hour, because we do get caught up in being creators and freedom seekers. We need to focus just for an hour. I'm encouraging you to focus on prioritizing your wealth building. So what does that mean? So if you, again, just to bring it back to simple brass tacks, if you have $100 worth of assets and $100 worth of liabilities, you have a zero net wealth. If you have $100 worth, if you have $200 worth of assets and $100 worth of liabilities, you've got $100 of net wealth. And similarly, if you're able to keep the same asset base and reduce the amount of liabilities you have, you are increasing your net wealth. And so we're going to focus on all of these things today, well, both of these things, mainly increasing assets and reducing liabilities, so that we can get back to being freedom seekers and creators, and all the while knowing that we are building our wealth for ourselves, building a legacy for ourselves and our family in the meantime. So let's dive straight into what is an asset. What is an asset and how do you accumulate them? So right now we're going to talk about growing your assets. So I have this very odd, peculiar, probably not very well written statement that has a lot of power in it. And we're going to go through it very, very specifically. So the statement is this: have a system of collecting assets at a speed with a goal. So we're going to go through this statement basically line for line, because I want you to understand exactly what I mean by this, because some people, sometimes me included, can get a little confused about, for instance, what even an asset is. And so let's define what an asset is. And so I'm going to focus on personal assets because they're just much easier to generalize, because we all have very, very different businesses and different assets that we probably acquire and liabilities we acquire throughout our business. But so very simply, an asset is, and this is for business and personal, but I'm just going to use personal assets as an example. An asset is something you expect to increase in value or that will make you money. And on the other side of the screen, you'll see a liability. And very simply, a liability is something you expect to decrease in value or cost you money. So these are very simple examples, definitions, but let's look at some examples as well. So the classic example of an asset, the easiest to understand perhaps, is cash, just money. You collect money and it is growing your wealth. So that is the simplest asset we can think of. The simplest, perhaps, or the most classic example of a liability would be a car. So we all know that a car deteriorates in value over time. I think they lose something between like 11 and 16% of the value as soon as you drive them off of the lot. And they absolutely cost us money. So is a car necessary and required for most of us just to even get to work or to drive our kids to school or whatever else it is that we need transportation for to run our businesses? They can be necessary, but let's not confuse a car for an asset because it is not. It is a liability. And so let's look at another example of an asset. So another example of an asset would be investments, stocks or bonds. I wrote stocks there, but bonds would suffice as well. So these are things that you expect to increase in value and or make you money over time. We have no clue what the stock market is going to do tomorrow or the next day or next week or even next year. But over time, if you invest in the stock market over years or decades, we assume, based on a lot of data from history, that the stock market will make you money. It will increase in value and make you money. So now let's look at another example of a liability, maybe a bit more of an extreme example, a boat. A boat is typically not ever necessary for any of us to have unless you live on an island, but a boat is a liability. I think some people look at a boat thinking, boy, that person must have a lot of money. They have a lot of assets. They have a lot of things they've accumulated. Don't mistake something that looks like an asset for what is really a liability. So that's why I'm going through this, spending so much time talking about an asset, because it is sometimes is hard to define. And so let's talk about real estate for a quick sec. So an investment property, something that is the tenants are paying off the mortgage for you and the taxes perhaps. Maybe you're even making a little bit of money on the side if they're able to cover the taxes and the mortgage and the utilities and then some. All the while, we expect an investment property to be increasing in value over time. That is an asset. On the real estate side, on the other side of the page, a vacation home is not an asset. So now, of course, we expect, well, not of course, but in theory, we would expect real estate to appreciate or increase in value over time. But if the amount of money and the cost that you're spending to keep this house up, this vacation home, if it's costing you more than it is appreciating in value, which it probably is, that is not an asset. That's a liability. Vacation homes are lovely. I hope to have one someday. So I'm not suggesting that people should not buy vacation homes. I just want to very clearly define what an asset is so that we know how to start accumulating them. And then just last, another classic example that we can all hopefully probably relate to is a primary residence. And so I put that in the middle of assets and liabilities for a very specific reason. Because if you're living in a neighborhood that is up and coming, you bought the yuckiest house on the block, you've done a lot of work on it, you've improved the value, curb appeal, etc. You can full well pay the mortgage payment. Maybe the mortgage payment is less than you would have expected to pay in rent. That's an asset. That is something you expect to increase in value. On the other hand, if you're living in a neighborhood that makes you feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses, you're struggling to pay the mortgage payment every single month, it's hard to get the money, scrape the money together to pay your tax bill, that creeps over into the liability side. So a primary home can be an asset or a liability depending on what different types of choices that you make. And so I wanted to spend some time talking about what an asset is before we start talking about the system for collecting them at a speed with a goal. So let's talk now about what a system is. And I'm just going to use cash as the simplest way to collect assets because it's something we can probably all relate to. So let's say your system is, and we're going to talk about this as entrepreneurs and business owners, so let's say your system is taking $50 a month out of your business, collecting that money to provide a legacy for you, your family, to collect assets. So let's just say it's $50 a month, nice and easy example. And so you'll see these young women, this young woman on the left, it gets a little bit older on the right. On the bottom of the screen, she starts at 30. She's going to do this until she turns 60. So let's see how this plays out for her. So let's say she takes $50 a month out of her small business and she shoves it underneath her mattress every single month, which I don't recommend anybody doing, but let's just use that as an example. She's not earning any interest. She's subject, I suppose, to inflation, but we won't even talk about that right now. She takes $50 a month out of her business, shoves it underneath her mattress. She would expect to accumulate something like $18,000 over the course of that 30-year period. If she decides to merely transfer that $50 a month from her checking account into her savings account, earning, let's say, 1% interest on that 50 bucks a month over all of that time, she would expect to accumulate something like $21,000. If, this is my favorite example, she decided to invest that money instead. She put it into the stock market and she was able to achieve something like a 7% return, which is the long-term average of what stocks have returned over the past 100+ years. So I'll just use that as an assumption of what you can earn in the stock market. She would expect to accumulate $61,000. So we're well on our way to collecting assets to create a legacy, taking this money out of our small business. Let's go back to our statement for a second. Have a system of collecting assets at a speed with a goal. So let's talk about the speed. Let's say she's able to increase the speed. So instead of collecting or taking $50 a month out of her business, she's able to take $50 a week out of her business. So that's 200 bucks a month. She does this from the age of 30 to 60. She would expect to accumulate $78,000 if she shoved the money under her mattress. Again, I don't recommend this. If she transferred this money into her checking account, into her savings account, earning 1% interest, $91,000. And if she invested this money, she would expect to accumulate something like $266,000, $250,000. So now we're really starting to talk about collecting some assets. This is the kind of number, these are the kinds of numbers I like. So let's talk then about a goal. So let's say you're thinking, okay, I think I can do that. I can take 50 bucks a week out of my business. I would like to accumulate assets. I don't want to be in that situation on the right, all the way on the left of the screen where I'm making 100, spending 100, making 100, spending 100, or worse, making 100, spending 105. That's worse. And so you want to start collecting assets. Let's say you can do this, but maybe you have a loftier goal. Maybe you have a goal of accumulating $2 or $3 or $4 million. And so how do you do that? Let's talk about how you get to a goal. So basically, you have two things to toggle around with here. You have time. And so you'll see on the bottom of the screen, I extended the amount of time that this young woman is starting earlier and working a little bit later. So I extended her work timeline and her savings capability by 10 years, 5 years on either side. And I get it. I'm not 25 either. If some of you are not 25 or even 30, I completely get it. We're going to talk about the next thing, the number 2 after time. But also remember that 25 to 65 is 40 years. 30 to 70 is 40 years. 33 to 73 is 40 years. That's all that really matters. It doesn't really matter when you start. It matters how long you have, how much time you have to save and invest. And so, of course, I would not want to recommend anybody shove any money under their mattress under any circumstances. And frankly, if you're talking about legacy building, putting money into a checking or a savings account isn't going to cut it. You must be investing if you really want to accumulate wealth. So I'm going to use investing as an example here and forget about the mattress and forget about the savings account, because neither of those things are really going to help you accumulate wealth. So let's say this young woman in the example is able to start at 25 and is willing to work to 65, which of course I full well assume I'll be working to 65 as well. So if she did this, oh, sorry, I'm going to talk about mattress for a second. If she did this for a longer period of time, just to show you the parabolic nature of how important it is to invest, she would expect to accumulate $104,000 under her mattress. This is real money. If she put it into her checking account, from her checking account to her savings account at 1% interest, $127,000. And finally invested, you're looking at $500,000. This is something you can do to create a legacy for your family if you're able to take 50 bucks a week out of your small business. So now let's just assume that some of us are not 25, because again, I'm in that same boat. So what is the other thing you can do, toggle around with, to get to a specific goal? And the other thing you can do, of course, is save more than $50 a week or $200 a month. Figure out how to take more money out of your small business. The later you're starting, the more money you'll want to save in order to get to a specific goal. So let's talk about that. And here's where we're going to scrap the mattress and frankly scrap the checking account and savings account example. So let's say you have a goal of accumulating $2 or $3 or $4 million, which I hope is your goal. I know that sounds completely crazy, but these are numbers. These are calculations. This is not a fantasy world. And so I hope that you have big goals like that. So if your goal was to accumulate $2 million, and let's say you are 25 and you can work to 65, or you've got 40 years ahead of you, you would have to save something like $175 a week to get to $2 million. If you wanted to accumulate $3 million, you would have to save something like $265 a week. And finally, $4 million, $350 a week. And so all of these numbers, of course, assume a growth rate of 7% in the stock market, which is, there's no guarantee, but that's just an assumption. But this is just to give you an idea of what you can and should need to be taking out of your business in order to get to a specific number. I encourage everybody to have a goal. And again, you may think I am insane for encouraging you to try to accumulate $4 million. But hey, what are we doing this for? The first two people that put their why into the chat did this because they want to create a legacy for themselves and their families. The only real way to do that is to start at some point and take some money out of your business and get it invested or invest it back in your business. Again, I was only using cash as an example that everybody can understand, but your asset may be collecting storefronts. Maybe you have a boutique store and you collect 2 assets over the course of your career, and that's 2 storefronts. Or you have, you're collecting investment properties, and maybe you only collect 1 or 2 or 3 of them over the course of your career. Not only, that would be amazing. But so the asset is important to understand what your asset is so you can have a system so you can start working towards your goal. So that takes us to the end of the asset portion. We're going to move on to talking about liabilities. I just wanted to pause real quick if anybody had any questions about anything we talked about. We can talk about it now. There will be plenty of time later to talk after we finish up to talk about questions then. And I'll also put out my email address if anybody has any questions that they are either not comfortable asking or in this forum, or if they think of a question tomorrow or next week or anytime. I love hearing from people that are interested in building their wealth. So if anybody has any questions, pop them into chat. And if not, I shall take a sip of water and we will move on. Okay, well, feel free to ask any questions you have at any time. So let's move on to what is a liability. A liability is a fancy name for debt. And I am going to assume that we have a blended business and personal debt profile. I'll assume that because that was my situation when I started my small business. And so if it's different for you, that, feel free to pop yourself off of mute and we can talk about what that means for you. But I'm just going to assume that we have these liabilities that are similar to lots of other liabilities that other people have. And so again, right now we're talking about reducing your debt, the other side of growing your assets. You can do both of these things simultaneously, or you can focus on one or the other depending on what your personal situation is. But right now we're going to talk about reducing your debt. So debt comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes and forms, and I'm sure everybody's had some experience with debt. So let's just talk about how expensive debt can be. Because it's important to, as I said earlier, it's important to bring these things back to just the simplest forum you can think about things in, so that you can get a handle on both your assets and your liabilities, so that you can start focusing on growing your wealth, having a goal, starting to work towards it. So when it comes to debt, for every $1,000 of debt you have outstanding, let's say on a 29% credit card, that's costing you $290 per year. I know, very simple, probably very obvious, but I think it's important to just bring it back to the simplest form. If you have a student loan, let's say at 8%, that's costing you, for every $1,000 you have outstanding on a student loan, that's costing you $80 a year. And similar, a 4% mortgage, no surprise here, is costing, for every $1,000 you have outstanding on a 4% mortgage, that's costing you $40 a year. So what this slide is designed to show you is that the higher the interest rate, again, not surprisingly, the more expensive your debt is. And so at the end, we're going to talk about a tactic for organizing your debt, and it's going to include ranking it by interest, ranking your debts by interest rate, so that you know which one is the most expensive debt outstanding for you. So let's talk about credit cards, because they are by far and away the nastiest form of debt. They're very toxic. They compound. They can have very, very high interest rates. They allow you to pay it off using a minimum payment, which can be quite dangerous. And so I don't know if anybody is funding their business through using credit cards. I'm sure some of you are, as I did, and it can get very, very expensive. So let's talk about a $5,000 credit card bill at 29% interest. So let's say this woman takes out $5,000 in credit card debts at 29% interest. Of course, she'll have to pay back the $5,000 that she borrowed, but it will also cost her an additional $5,300 in interest over time. And if she only pays the minimum payment on this, which would be something like $150 a month, it would take her 5 3/4 years to pay this credit card off. Now let's say there's a possibility that she can take $100 a month out of her small business to try to reduce these costs. So that's an extra $25 a week. Of course, she'll start out with the same $5,000 credit card bill, which she will of course have to pay at least off what she borrowed. But if she's able to pay an extra $100 a month off, that would reduce her interest payment overall from $5,300 total to $1,900. This is the power of a small business. If you're able to take some money out of your small business, again, in this example, it's only $25 a week. It can make a tremendous difference in the amount of your overall liabilities. And in this example, she would end up paying off this credit card in 2.3 years, this $5,000 credit card balance. So now let's take a look at student loans, because that is something many of us are saddled with in this country. So as an example, a $30,000 student loan at 8% interest. This woman, most student loans are 10 years long. We'll just assume that's what it is. The payment would be $365 per month. Of course, she would have to pay off the $30,000 that she borrowed. And using this situation where she only pays her minimum payment every month, she would expect to pay $13,700 in interest over the course of 10 years. If she was able to take $25 out of her business a week, $100 a month, and she was able to pay an extra $100 a month towards her student loans over that time, she would reduce her interest cost from $13,700 to $9,300 and pay off her loan 3 years early. So again, I know that we have all of these things that we need to do for our business, and we want to pour money back into our business. We have obviously today's bills that we have to pay. We have all of these lofty goals and all of these small goals. But just taking a step back to think about what you can do to manage your own personal wealth profile can be a very powerful exercise. And so let's just look at one last example with debt. When it comes to debt, let's look at your mortgage. So let's say somebody takes out a $100,000 mortgage at 4%. And they take 30 years to pay this mortgage off, which is pretty typical. They would end up spending a total of $72,000 in interest in order to pay this home off. What if they were able to take $100 out of their business and pay an extra $100 a month towards their mortgage, towards this 4% mortgage? Well, they would end up paying back their mortgage 8.5 years early, and they would end up saving themselves $22,000 in interest over the period of that time. So that would reduce their interest cost from $72,000 to $50,000. Still a lot of money, but would save them a tremendous amount of money and time managing this debt. So I return us now to our original screen. Your assets minus your liabilities equals your net wealth. And so we talked about this. This is something we don't want to do. I think a lot of us end up in this situation where we are working hard, we are paying the bills, we're scraping by, we're doing our thing, we're getting to where we think we're getting till tomorrow, and we're able to get through it all without incurring debt. And it's fine. But I would like to encourage you to take a little bit of time, think about small amounts of money that you can take out of your business so that you can start accumulating wealth for yourself. Even if it's $10 a month to start, over time, that can really add up. And so increasing your assets while keeping your liabilities the same, or keeping your assets the same and decreasing your liabilities, or hopefully working on both, is something that I would like you to encourage you to start thinking about. So that's all we have on liabilities. Before we move on to some tools we can all use as small business owners and as non-small business owners, if we're just working in a small business. Does anybody have any questions on anything that we've talked about yet?
I don't have any questions, but I really love the detail in that. I really did.
You loved I thought you said you would love the detail. Oh, thank you very much.
I like the detail that you've given so far. I think it's
very
helpful.
Okay. This is big picture stuff. This is big picture stuff that I'm trying to drill down to the tiniest, most simple nugget I possibly can so that you can focus on this kind of stuff for yourself and your legacy and your family. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of you were like, oh, $4 million, this woman is crazy. And that's fine. You can call me crazy. I don't mind. If you come up with a question and you want to think about how you can implement this for yourself and your family, and it occurs to you 36 hours from now, or 3 weeks from now, or 36 days or weeks or months from now, email me. I'm going to give you my email address, and we can talk in detail about how you could potentially implement this type of thing. I'm not a financial advisor, got nothing to sell. I'm just an educator, but my passion is helping guide people in the direction so that they can build wealth for themselves. No matter where you're starting, what you're scrapping together, truly it doesn't matter. Okay, so sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Thank you very much for that. I've actually applied paying an extra $100 a month towards my principal on my mortgage. It's nice to see what savings I can expect. It is unbelievably powerful what paying back an extra $100 a month or a week or whatever you can afford can do to the cost of your debt. Mortgage is wonderful because it's such a long time outstanding. So it costs you a lot in interest, but other debt is important as well. And I hope that you can join us for our next talk on debt, because we're going to really dive deep and talk very specifically about what doing certain things can do for the cost of your debt. Okay, thank you very much for all of those lovely comments. Okay, so we only have a couple of minutes left. I wanted to spend some time talking about some logistical things we can do. Again, I am not an accountant. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here for that. But there are some tools that I can guide you towards that can help you start thinking about how you can do this. And perhaps go speak to a financial advisor, or Google is, I guess, our friend, or of course you can always contact me and we can talk about things in more detail so I can educate you. So let's just, I think it's important for everybody. I know I harped on this a little bit, or a lot. I harp on things a lot. To talk about or think about what your assets are. What are your assets? What is your system? What is your goal? We have a little timer here. I think we have 90 minutes blocked off for this talk, which is not, unless you have lots and lots and lots of questions. We're probably not going to go the whole 90 minutes. If not, stay in whatever little room you're locked in your home, even if you're locked in a stairwell. I don't know. I happen to have a little office by my train station that I run to away from my children and my lovely husband. But if you have some extra time, maybe stay in this place for a little while and think about what are your assets? What is a possible speed for you? And what is a goal? Because everybody's will be different. I guarantee you that. And so for me, I just brainstormed some assets that might be helpful for you to think about. Cash, of course, super classic, easy, simple, vanilla example. Investments, it is critically important that we invest. Critically important. Invest as women, as business owners, as maybe matriarchs of a family, of different generations. Investing is so important in so many different ways. Property is an unbelievable thing to be able to accumulate, especially if you feel like you need to see your assets. You want to touch them. You don't want them to be able to go anywhere. You don't want the gyrations in the stock market. Property is an amazing asset to accumulate. Intellectual property, patents, whatever your business is, and any other income producing assets you have. Maybe you have a great idea and you want to do a digital course, and that is something that can lay there, out there in the internet universe, and it can make you money over time. Whatever it is that your asset is, think about it. And so on the asset side also, the where. Some people, I suppose, anticipating questions that I typically get. The where. Where do you keep these assets? And so these first 3 bullets, a SEP IRA, which is a simplified employee pension, an IRA is individual retirement account, a solo 401k, those 2 things are tax advantaged retirement accounts we can use as small business owners, potentially, to squirrel away our assets to build our wealth in a tax advantaged way. These are things that you need to speak to your accountant about to see what is most applicable to you in your business situation. But there are things that you may want to consider thinking about and starting for yourself if you have employees, however that works for you in your small business. A 529 account is an account that you can help save for an education, for your legacy, for your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, yourself. If you want to go back and get another degree, you can save in a tax advantaged way in a 529 account for education. And then finally, a non-tax advantaged, but liquid and available account is a regular savings or investment account. So the top 3 are a little bit tied up. You can't really access them until you're a certain age or you reach certain eligibility criteria. The last one, regular savings or investment accounts, not tax advantaged, but totally available to you for whenever you need it. And then finally, on the liability side, here's what I'd like to leave you with. If you have liabilities, if you have debt that you are struggling with, or if you have debt you just want to go away, which I applaud as well, here's what I would suggest you do. List out every single debt you have, every single student loan, every single credit card, everything you've borrowed from your grandma, anything and everything, personal loans, business loans, whatever they are, list them all out. Try to renegotiate your interest rates on them. If you have a student loan, let's say, you can, if you pay your student loans on time, automatically or early, they will reduce your interest rate by most will. You have to check your specific loan provider, reduce your interest rate by 0.25%. That could save you some money over time, and that's worth doing. So try to renegotiate any interest rates you can lower. Refi your mortgage. Interest rates are so low right now. It's insane historically. Or look at a credit card situation. If you've got a 29% credit card balance outstanding, see if you can move that to a lower interest rate. So you list everything out, try to renegotiate your interest rates, and then rank them and target the most expensive debt first. And again, I know that sometimes I might oversimplify things. The highest interest rate is your most expensive debt. And please join us for the next talk on debt. We're going to dive deep. And then finally, If you have the ability to take some money out of your business, pay down some extra principal while always paying your minimum payment on every single debt. Don't forget to pay your car payment. Don't forget to pay your mortgage payment, minimum payment on your credit card. Don't forget about those. You must do that. And at the bottom, you'll see, and perhaps this may be the most important part of this whole entire talk. The most important nugget you can take away from this. Setting up automatic payments is a godsend. It's so simple. It is, in theory, if you can set them up and then forget all about them, that would be the best case scenario. That extra $100 you're paying back towards your mortgage, someday you're going to wake up when you have 22 or 3 or 4 years left on your mortgage, and your lender's going to say, you're done. And your spouse or your partner might say, what? We paid our mortgage off 8 years early, 7 years early. I mean, this kind of stuff, if you can set it and forget it, it is an unbelievably powerful tool. That goes for saving as well. So let me just take a look at the chat real quick. AutoPay is the best, of course. I'm interested in learning about beginning instruments for investment. Okay, we can talk about that in just a second. AutoPay saves me so many late fees. I wish I could do it with everything. AutoPay is, again, maybe I should have made it in a bigger print at the bottom. It is such a critically important tool to use. And the best thing is to be, if you're as scatterbrained as I am, then you forget about it. And it's happening all along the way. And, because there are times that you may not feel like you have an extra $100 that month to pay towards your mortgage. But hey, if it goes there and that's your priority, and then maybe you have to scrimp on something else that month just to make sure that everybody gets fed and the car gets gassed and the business gets run and all these other things, that mortgage thing is really still happening in the background. Okay, so thank you for all of the lovely comments on chat. I really appreciate them. I wanted to just plug our, maybe I know I repeat myself a lot. I wanted to plug our next talks. I hope you can join us for them. Managing Debt on Thursday, April 21st. You could take maybe a screenshot of this. Managing Spending and Liquidity, Thursday, April 13th. And Tuesday, April 13th and Wednesday, April 28th. COVID resources that are available to all of us as small business owners.
Actually, Casey, you have the 13th after the 21st. Do you want to switch those topics for those dates?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, April. Oh my goodness, I have the wrong date. It's not April 21st. It's April 1st. I have it on a pin board behind me. I apologize, everybody. That's Thursday, April 1st for debt. Sorry about that. And you can sign up on the Eventbrite, the same way that you sign up for this one. Yeah,
and
so
it'll go out in our weekly newsletter. So everybody will have an opportunity to register right out of that. And everybody who's on this call, their email addresses will be added. And then I believe Tasha sent out in the chat a link to our events.
Great. Okay, sorry about that date issue. But I hope everybody can join us for that. So I know some people have to go. I wanted to finish up, and I hope the presentation gods and the teaching gods will forgive me for finishing up on a quoting myself. I'm embarrassed to be doing this, but it's such an important concept. I truly, truly believe when it comes to building and prioritizing your wealth, it has nothing to do with what you make. And it has everything to do with what you choose to do with the little bits we get to keep. 25 bucks a month can make a tremendous difference in your overall wealth. Or sorry, I meant to say 25 bucks a week, but 25 bucks a month can do it also. I encourage you, have a goal, stick to it, set up automatic payments, understand your debt, think about prioritizing your wealth building, your debt reduction, all of these things. So I know a lot of people have to go. Thank you so much for the kind words on chat. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you again. Thank you for loving that quote. I know I'm embarrassed that I'm quoting myself. How pathetic. That was
great. I thought that was a wonderful presentation, and based on the comments in the chat, it went very well received.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. My email address is there. Use it. Please don't be shy. I'd love to hear from people. And Deborah and Tasha, thank you for moderating and dealing with all those tech issues we had in the beginning. again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them into chat. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you so much for giving a wonderful presentation. The Women's Business Center appreciates it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Bye, everybody. Have a safe day.
I'll just hang out for a second in case. Oh, thank you, Lydia. Can it be emailed? Yvette, just email me. Sure. Sure. Email me at casey@getsquire.com. Let me, I'll pop that back up.
Send the presentation out to everybody if you like.
Okay, sure. Sure. Sounds great. Okay, I'm going to assume nobody has any other questions. So Deborah and Tasha, thank you. And thank you, everybody. Lydia, are you typing something? Ah, okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.